Getting tabled.
Getting tabled.
Getting tabled.
Getting tabled.
Getting tabled.
Getting tabled.
With the Bruce, the Yank, and Captain Socks.
Hello, future people, and welcome to episode 64 and a half of Getting Tabled with your host, the Bruce.
Hello, folks. Let's just call it 65. It's fine.
And then, ooh, there's socks.
Socks. Yes, I'm below you.
Major socks.
But above you, master socks, major socks. Although I'm in Bruce's video, I'm above you, so you're still above
You know, the
me.
whole point of me having that conversation was to avoid this particular topic.
What about this?
You blamed it. That's all good.
Yeah, we're 2 weeks behind schedule on talking about stuff because out of the blue we got Mel on the show, and we spent the entire night talking to him and said screw the news.
Well,
and
I did have two
hobby
pieces of news that are still in today's subject. And I'm not going to say which ones they are. We'll just see if the public realise which ones they are. One of them should be fairly obvious.
All right, well, let's jump into that then.
Newly received or noteworthy information, especially about recent or important events.
Alright, so I'm going to start off with Games Workshop because they never have anything to talk about, and it's apparently Warhammer Day. I forgot Warhammer Day was a thing, but anyway, just because they didn't really do it last year. Well, I guess they did, but it was online. Some really weird choices for Christmas this year. Now, they've got a calendar, and that's fine. I mean, I'm kind of surprised they don't do calendars more often, to be honest. It's something that costs almost no money, and they can charge anything they want for it. There's also been a little bit of artwork shown off for things that are coming.
People still use calendars?
Yes, people still use calendars, but usually so that they can stare at pictures of adult film stars. But here's the thing that I'm kind of like... Okay, now I know that you two aren't into wrestling, but in the 80s, when wrestling was really big with Hulk Hogan and stuff, they would throw their name and their faces on literally anything that might sell money. There's a famous story of Hulk Hogan opening a pasta shop that just lost everything, for example. It's really starting to feel like Games Workshop are doing that. I mean, kids' TV shows do the same thing, but...
What, with the candles? Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, with the candles. I mean, there's been jokes about how people are upset that they don't get to have the Catachan pit sweat smell, and there's no Papa Noodle candle. I mean, I guess it's fun and silly, and that's obviously what they're going for, is something fun and silly. It just seems really, really, really dumb to me.
Far stretch.
Yeah, if I'm going to drop my money on something that's like stupid that will only get used once or twice, I'm getting one of the sweaters. I mean, that's...
I actually like the sweaters, actually. I will give them credit on that. They don't look bad. I mean, they're ugly, but they're supposed to be ugly because they're ugly Christmas sweaters.
That's the typical Christmas ugly sweater. What are you talking about?
That was my point.
I know.
Literally what I just said. And we're getting our first little sneak peek at the comics, which is good. I'm still excited to see what ends up happening with these comics. I know that there's been a lot of people that's been like, why do Marvel have to do everything? But I don't really care who's writing them. I'm just interested to see what somebody else does with the IP. But yeah, there's some really weird decisions going on when it comes to the merchandise side of things at the moment. It's kind of really
if
odd.
they wanted to market and merch something that had an aroma and fragrance to it, instead of candles, they should have done deodorant. Because then, when you go to your Warhammer tournament, you can put on your orc deodorant and maybe not smell like an actual orc when you're at the tournament then.
That's actually not as stupid as it sounds. That would probably sell like hotcakes. I mean, scented candles is... I know that scented candles are a thing, but they are very much a niche thing. And I don't see a lot of crossover appeal.
Well, also
deodorant, everybody gets why that gags. Although it's probably a matter of maybe they don't want to make that joke. But everybody's going to get why the gag is there. I don't see anybody that wouldn't jump on board just so that they could pull it out as the joke. I could get behind that.
I could just get behind it because I've been around people where it's like, go shower.
Yeah, obviously. But like that would sell like hotcakes. Especially if they only did it once a year or something. Like if they made it, as much as I hate it when companies do that, but you have this thing where it's like it's only around a certain time of year. Pick Warhammer Day, and this is the only time that you can buy this particular deodorant, and they would just sell cans of it, crates of it probably, because there'd be people, that there'd be people that would just buy a year's supply of it. I would not be one of those people.
FLGS is buying it, sitting it on the shelf, and just be like, "There's a person behind you."
There was.
Or like a gaming store, like a display case of Warhammer deodorant, and be like, "Buy some, put it on, or go."
Moving on. This particular story came up a couple of days ago as part of Warhammer Day. And generally, it got one of two responses. Either it's people going, but I'm already a member. Do I get my 2 free weeks? And their response was pretty much, if you was to purchase another year, then you will get it on your second year. Which is... I get why people are asking the question, but it's a really dumb question. Sorry, guys, but it is. You already know that they're not going to give you a free month. The whole point of this 2 free weeks is to get more people in. The big question is... Sorry, I should actually explain. Yeah, as part of Warhammer Day, they're giving away 2 free weeks of access to Warhammer Plus if you subscribe. You've got to use a special code, which is on the screen now, WHDay21. The big question is, do you think they're doing this just to try and, make themselves appear more normal, because everybody else does something similar to this? Or do you think it's because they're struggling with the numbers?
I'm going to go with the latter option there of they're struggling with the numbers they thought, because, and I shared a screen cap of this in our chat a few weeks ago, before this was even mentioned. If you sign up, and they said if you're already signed up, you're included in this, but if you sign up, you get the entire paint range and brush range and like pretty much anything but the models, the brushes, tools, paints, everything. You could win a complete set of that for subscribing to Warhammer Plus. So something like that. And I just got a wallet here today. I went and looked at that. A complete set of contrasts is like, for me, $260.
Oh, it'd be a lot more than that for me.
Right, yeah, that's just the contrast. That's not the layers. That's not the bases. Yeah. So, and then sets of brushes, and then the tools themselves. So, I mean, to do something like that, that also kind of, reeks a little bit of some desperation of like, spend $50 at a chance to win $600 or whatever.
Realistically, most of the press surrounding Warhammer Plus has been fairly average. There's been a number of stories about how it hasn't run properly. I know you didn't have many issues with that.
I still haven't been having any issues with it. I will say at this point now, we're in month 3 now.
I don't think it's been that long. Maybe it has. I don't know.
August, September, we're in October, so 2.5 months, call it. The content is still... We've only got last I looked, I haven't checked in a couple weeks, we only had 2 series.
Yeah.
So
I did
to
not
me,
subscribe, as you two know, because quite frankly, I just looked at it and I just didn't see any value in it for me.
Yeah.
I would love to watch a couple of the series, but I wasn't spending that sort of money to watch 1 or 2 series. It's not like every other service that already has a ton. And most of what I would say is the important content I can already get for free from multiple other sources. And I tend to be more interested in what other people are doing with their models, not what Warhammer are doing with their models, personally. When it comes to paint-wise. I wouldn't be surprised if part of this is because they're struggling to get numbers, especially with the press having been as average about it as it was. But at the same time, realistically, I'm kind of surprised they didn't do this already. I think they should have launched with this. The problem I see with this story is that they're launching this and it's still only a temporary thing. And I think long term that's not going to help them. Even Disney offer 7 days as a regular thing for their Disney Plus. And I'm sorry, but Disney are notoriously cheap when it comes to things like that. They make Warhammer look like the most generous company known to man. And they still have a permanent free trial available. Now, the risk of a permanent free trial is that you get in there, you quickly watch everything that you want, and then you unsubscribe before you pay money. But it's probably still the best chance they're going to have of getting most people in. It's not expensive. It's just... I just don't think there's a lot in there for people. Is the big
so I will say this. This is the 3rd time when I've opened the app, I've been kicked out of it, and I have to re-sign in again.
Yeah.
So that's annoying.
It would.
Let's see here.
It's also not available for a lot of services at the moment. It's not available for... you can go through the browsers on the PlayStation and the Xbox, but they're still coming soon at this point. That would not be helping them.
Okay, so it looks like one more series has been added of content.
Mm-hmm.
There is Angels of Death, which is one of the first ones, and then there's 2 additional shows where they just talk about Angels of Death. Not new content, just talking about the show. So I'm not watching those. And then it looks like they've added a show of Hammer and Bolter talking about Hammer and Bolter instead of more content. Then obviously the painting stuff and stuff like that. And for me, I was my initial was like, I want entertainment. I don't want to sit there and watch people talking about stuff. So we've got 3 shows in 2.5 months. I just thought there was a huge push for that. Now, that being said, it is a new platform. Next year, maybe their numbers will be up because they actually have a library of content for people to watch.
Possibly. I'm still surprised that they haven't done the Warhammer movie. As much as I know people hate that movie, but it should be on there. It's their product. It should be on there. Whether people like it or not.
Actually, I own that. I do own that.
I have seen it, but I don't own it. I considered buying it a few times, but I never have. Let's move on, though. I personally think might be one of the biggest, for me, surprising, because I honestly didn't think they were going to do this. So the big reveal that came through this morning was that they are going to release Dungeon Bolt. I am massively surprised by this. I really didn't think this was going to come. I don't remember if I might have even said so on a podcast at some point. Dungeon Bolt to me made a lot of sense. But for some reason, I just didn't think they were going to do it. So for those that are not familiar, like if you're new to the hobby, Dungeon Bowl is a version of Blood Bowl. It's basically Warhammer Quest meets Blood Bowl. It's kind of in the middle. It's a dungeon crawler, but it's a sport at the same time. So rather than it being... This is their version of the college football, essentially. So wizards build up teams and send them into these dungeons that they've set up filled with traps and stuff. And this is a version of the game that I've never played, but always wanted to. My understanding is that it tends to be very much you love or you hate it, because it's very unfair. But then again, it's Blood Bowl. Blood Bowl is very unfair to begin with. I'm going to hold out on judgment until I see the prices. It does look very much board game and not sport game at this point, because it's all building up the dungeon tiles and stuff. But otherwise, I will reserve final judgment until I see what the price is. But otherwise, I'm genuinely excited for this, because it's something that I was hoping that they would do, but I didn't think that they would. Socks obviously wouldn't, but George, did you ever play Dungeon Bowl?
I have not. I've hardly even played Blood Bowl, so this is also news to me. So,
well, it was only news as of about an hour and a half ago, or 2 hours ago. So this is very, very fresh news. Yeah, very, very excited to see what else comes with that, or comes out for that. I'm hoping that it's not just this is the set and now we're going to forget about it, like they have with a lot of things. I hope that this starts becoming a regular release alongside Blood Bowl, because I want to see this actually grow. Because otherwise they're wasting their money releasing the set. And finally, we're going to talk about Forge World product for the first time in probably 12 months. Because quite honestly, I just don't bother looking at Forge World most of the time. I have a fairly sour opinion of it at the moment. But the final of the brothers is finally here. We have the Khan himself. And quite frankly, he looks gorgeous. Well, I think he looks gorgeous.
I think he's a little too ornamental on the top half.
He's very samurai-ish, I have to agree.
Well, it's not that I have a problem with that. It's like there's too much ornamental on like his pauldrons and the chest and stuff like that. It's like,
well, that is the Horus Heresy line has all been like that.
I get that, but even if you look at like some of the other Primarchs, they're still not that bad.
Yeah.
I'm watching a little video here again, because they give a little quick overview-y of what they all look like. But yeah, I think there's just too much decoration. I mean, I get what they're going after, but I think it could have been toned down just a little bit. Like, yeah, none of the others are nearly as crazy as his ornamentation is. So,
I personally don't know how ornamental he is in the lore. I don't know if that's a thing or not. I don't really know. Now, I'm going to butcher this by trying to say it, but Jegatai, I don't really know his story very well. I mean, I know who he is, but it's just not one that I looked very deep into.
I mean, beyond that, yes, it is a traditional, 30K Primarch. It is a very good looking model, very good looking mini. I'm guessing it's probably $85 because when I looked here recently, the prices of the Primarchs have gotten ridiculous now.
Well, it's the only reason I didn't. I always said that I was going to buy Sanguinius when they did him. And I didn't even consider it because it's just stupidly expensive.
Let's go take a quick look.
For anybody that doesn't live in the UK, Forge World is just expensive now anyway. They kind of shot themselves in the foot. What, 2, almost 3 years ago now when they changed all of that?
Something like that.
I don't know.
Where they added actual shipping locations and you start playing your country prices instead of just playing what the pound price was and paying your national shipping.
I would have less of an issue with Forge World if the process of creating their models had have aged like the models have.
Whoa!
That they are charging literal highest prices on the market, and their resin products are quite below average, quite frankly. But yeah, moving away from Games Workshop, and from memory, this is a Blood Bowl story. Yes, it is a Blood Bowl story. So Grebo Games are doing what Games Workshop will not. We are getting Chaos Dwarfs. This is not on Kickstarter yet. This will be on Kickstarter in the next day or two. I think it's November 3rd off the top of my head. And quite frankly, these are gorgeous.
Yeah, these look pretty cool. Even though I don't play Blood Bowl.
Are these the Chaos Dwarves you've been wanting?
These are the first Silly Hat Chaos Dwarves I've ever liked the look of. Because I don't like the Silly Hat normally. I love these. These are gorgeous. So yeah, quite frankly, we've been getting sights of pretty much everything. We've got looks at the Bull Centaurs. The charging one is probably my favourite. And the Minotaur, which is just all kinds of beefy and good. So, yeah. Dwarvageddon is what they're calling it. Ironically, it would appear that we're going to be having 2 Blood Bowl Kickstarters happening at the same time. Punga Miniatures are also doing one at literally the same time. And it looks like they may also have Chaos Dwarves among it, but we haven't seen the pictures of them yet. That's why we're not looking at them. There's been a few people that's kind of said to Punga, this might be a mistake, and I would be one of those people. Because Grebo Games are not a small company. And I actually own some Punga miniatures. I bought some of their Rat ones for my Skaven when I was doing them. But 2 different companies running 2 different Kickstarters with similar models at the same time is not going to go well for anybody. I don't think.
Well, it'll either be a 50-50 or one will do better than the other. It's
going to come down to who has the best looking models, I suppose. I will look at both of them, but it's going to be interesting to see how this goes. I definitely love the look of the Chaos Dwarves.
yeah, no, for sure. They definitely look way better than the other Chaos Dwarves.
Yes. And it looks like it's going to be a fairly sizable force too, which is good. Moving on to one of the stories that we probably should have covered a while ago.
I thought we already did once.
No, this is one of the ones that we was going to talk about with Mel, and then didn't.
Oh, that's right.
So, Army Painter are, and I'm going to prep, they are doing a contrast range. They are calling it Speed Paint. The reason I'm phrasing it that way is last year there was a company that released what everybody thought was going to be a contrast range, but it wasn't. We were one of the people that got that wrong, but we were not alone in that. Most of the industry got that wrong. But this is genuine. This is a contrast range. They've actually shown it used. It's very clearly what they're going for. 23 paints to start with, so it is a smaller range to start with, but I think that's a sizable enough range to start with to see how much of a market there is for a competitor in the market. I think there's definitely.
Yeah, just looking at the picture with all the little owlbears or whatever they have, it's pretty good range. I mean, you almost got every single color you're going to need potentially.
There's a lot of contrast colors that nobody touches because there's arguably too many of them. But This will hit us in November. I'm curious on this to see how it actually turns out. There's already some people out there in the market that's been sent some testers to use and show off, and it genuinely looks like it's good. It looks like it's, a contrast paint, but that is literally all it's supposed to be. You are getting a starter set with 8 colours. No, sorry, 10 colours. Learn to count, Jason. And of course the 26 that we'd already mentioned. But, yeah. Very, very interesting to see how this turns out.
So, and I'm going to say something here, and it may shock you a little bit, but probably not. So I looked at him a little further, and it looks like that this contrast is coming in a dropper.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because it's not Games Workshop.
Right. Having worked with, like doing dropper paints, doing a contrast paint, I don't think a dropper is a great way to go. Because you're trying to load up the brush and, do a large surface. Not squirt it out and then try to load your brush up.
The downside of the dropper bottle would be if you get too much out of it, I suppose, as opposed to doing it straight from the bottle.
Right.
But it depends on... There are still some people that will argue that you should never take it straight from the bottle, even with contrast. I probably would side with them on that. Because you end up pooling too much and then having to fix it later. Whereas if you are more controlled with how much is in your brush, you can avoid your tide lines and stuff. It just depends on how you look at it. There's definitely people out there that hate the regular pots, but I can see where you're coming from. Army Painter only ever do dropper bottles.
Oh, no, yeah, absolutely. But, with the contrast being more like, the wash, I mean, who uses a dropper bottle? Okay, there are some people that use a dropper bottle for the wash because they can't, keep their elbows from knocking it over and making a huge mess on their table.
It's not just a matter of that. I personally, I hate the pots. They don't seal properly. They dry out. Like, it's genuinely an issue.
On the paints, I'll agree. On something like the wash or, the thin stuff, I have had no issues with them drying out. And, I think, being able to quickly go and add to your brush to do coverage, I think is more important than squirting out 3 or 4 drops and using that than squirting out more and continuing to go.
The issue that I've had with the pots, when it comes to washes specifically, not contrasts, is over time you get this issue of drying out's the wrong word, but the chemicals, it seems to get thicker over time because there's clearly something that's evaporating within the paint. That's what I've found to be a bigger issue, especially with the glossy stuff. I can't really say with the contrast because it hasn't been around long enough for me to notice whether it does it or not. I will always prefer a dropper over those pots though. It's always going to be my preference. So consider that a bias if you wish. But I hate those pots with a seething passion. Contrast is probably the closest to acceptable with them, but I still don't like them.
Yeah, I've only used them a handful of times myself on my battle droids for Legion, so
Yeah.
I haven't had much experience with me to deal with them much drying out or anything.
When it comes to contrast, I certainly wouldn't be using a wet palette with it, but I do still prefer to use a palette so that I can control how much is on my brush. That's just, I would just prefer to paint that way.
Yeah, well, and that's the one thing I was figuring out today when I was, when I was doing some painting is all the techniques of controlling the paint on your brush and everything, it goes out the window with contrast. You just, the less control, the better.
You've got to watch it. You've got to watch it and pay attention to where it's pooling and stuff. And as much as they show flooding your model with it, it's not really the best way to do it. You control how much goes on the model that way, because all you're doing is going to be pulling it off otherwise.
Now, I will say this. Another vehicle. No, that's never mind. That's not something related. Well, it's
Okay.
related-ish, so ignore me. I'm watching yeah. I don't know. That's
Yeah, in the video they just show it dumping it on, pretty much.
Yeah, I know. The Games Workshop do too. That was the kind of the reason that I suggested it. If you look at people outside of Games Workshop, or in this case Army Painter, using paints like this, the people that seem to get the best results out of it are the ones that are very, very careful and take their time with it. Because there's less cleanup if you're careful with how it's pooling and stuff. To the point where people paint Space Marines and choose which way they brush it on to get a reflective surface in the right direction.
yeah.
Which is probably more trouble than I would ever go to with a contrast. Because if I was just going to do contrast, I'm just going to use contrast. But the fact that it's possible to get that sort of result is quite amazing, I think. It's going to be interesting to see where this goes. I kind of suspect that doing the smaller line is going to be the smarter decision, because there's a lot of people that will just go, I already have contrast, why would I buy another one? This is pretty much going to be for the people that refuse to touch Games Workshop, and I don't think anybody else will. And there are those people out there. It's not a small community of people that try to avoid Citadel as much as they possibly can. The only criticism I would probably have is that there is a couple of colours there that I think are a little bit too close. The white and the light grey, for example, in that second row are very, very close. Otherwise, I think their choices are quite good. It'll cover most things, and obviously you can mix it if you're not happy with what you're getting. Moving on. Bushido is a sexy game, and you should all invest in Bushido. Pre-orders this month, so we are getting some new dice sets. The dice sets are finally coming. These have been kind of teased for months at this point, as coming soon, but we're finally getting a view of those. So the Shiho, I believe that's the Jung. No, that's the Cult of Uri. The Ito clan, which is what I collect, which is your snake guys. That's what's coming this month. There'll be more next. We also have a gorgeous looking ninja, which is like a demon ninja looking thing. We've got some archers for the Shio. We've got a sniper.
John Wick.
For the Jung. He does look like John Wick, doesn't he? Yeah, you're right.
I mean, he's got enough look to look kind of like Keanu, and it's just like, okay, feudal Japan with a gun.
Yeah,
it's John Wick.
And another cool-looking samurai for those guys as well. More really gorgeous-looking minis. Yeah. I'm definitely going to be getting some of the Ito dice. There's nothing else there that I really need because I don't collect those other factions. But that sniper is really, really tempting. I'm not buying Jung, but that sniper is really tempting. Any favourites amongst that for you guys?
John Wick.
Yeah, I had a feeling.
I like that last samurai, that fourth picture.
Yep. Yeah, he is quite cool.
It's very classic.
It is.
Very much so. All right, moving on. We've got a new release this month for Black Site Studios. So this is for Don't Look Back, the horror theme game. And it's Halloween themed. So this is Gourd Reaper 2. There's already been a Gourd Reaper that we've shown off before. But this is the sequel, and he's bigger and badder this time.
And he looks cool as hell.
Oh, yeah, big time. He's back, and he's jacked O-Lantern. which is just a horrible pun, but you would expect it to be a horrible pun because it's a takeoff of a horror movie.
I couldn't make it any worse if I tried.
No. So this is a 58mm model. So this is a big chunky model.
Yeah, it's
really love what they've done with this one. So yeah, I thought that was worth showing off. Moving on to TTCombat. We haven't actually touched on TTCombat for a little while. I don't actually know why. Why is my thing looking really weird?
Lewis, stop making cool MDF files. Sorry.
Wow. All right. It's weird. I don't know why it's doing that. Anyway, okay. So we've got quite a lot of terrain that's come through here. There's some new, definitely not Eldar stuff, space elf stuff. There's some more cyber ordnance stuff. I think the Wild West stuff is my favourite amongst all of this.
Yeah, I like that saloon.
I don't know why. It's such a small market of, like, you know, the gaming concept, like, you know, Wild West stuff. But its terrain, I think, just looks so amazing when people do it. Yep.
You're biased, though. Because you were born in the Wild West.
That's right.
Well, I'm not going to disagree. I mean, some of the buildings downtown where I live, they have the, you know, that classic, you know, Wild West architecture on them.
Oh, I mean, you were literally born in the 1800s.
Oh.
But yes, you're in Wyoming, so that would make sense. There's continuations there for the Venice range, which is just continues to be gorgeous. My second favourite is the Celestial Drive-In Theatre. I love everything to do with this. Absolutely everything to do with this. The Gothica Public Library is nice too. But oh my god, it's a drive-in theatre. Come on. What's not cool about that?
Yeah, that'd be fun to do because you could have a screenshot print of a movie being played or something like that on that big screen.
Yep. Forget that. Here's what I'd do if I had stupid amounts of money.
Mini project during the video.
Take an iPad mini and just stick it in there and have a movie playing on the screen.
Yeah, that could work. It'd probably be a little bit too small,
though. What was that? 28 centimeters by 20 centimeters?
You just have to make sure you buy the right one. The Gothica Exchange Bank. I don't know why it's Exchange Bank and not Bank Exchange, but anyway, I quite like that too. There's just lots of really good stuff here.
I was gonna say maybe they just do exchanges. They're not a traditional bank. They just convert.
Possible.
And Resistance Dreadnought looks nice too.
Oh hey, yeah, look, there's a Dreadnought there.
And just seeing all the different varieties you could build the Resistance almost makes me want to get Resistance, but I don't want to at the same time.
Yes, you do.
I already have all 4 factions, and half of them aren't even built yet. Half of them aren't even still in the boxes from the Kickstarter.
Well, you haven't built them now. You're not going to build... You may as well start with something new. If you don't start with something... But if you don't start with something new, you're eventually going to finish what you've started. This is a hobby. You're not allowed to finish. You must always get distracted by something new. Yeah, no, I really like this as well. I'm kind of very similar to you in that, where I'd love to dive in and just build some crazy stuff with this, but at the same time, I really don't need another faction.
Yep.
Because all I would be doing would be buying it to build it and paint it. I'm not moving away from playing Scourge. It's just not happening. The other thing is we seem to be getting some rebranded sleeves and stuff, which is interesting. Just nice to see, I guess. A little bit of variety. Gives their customers stuff to protect their cards with on the Rumble Slam side. And
I was gonna say you have decks for Fleet and Zone.
Yeah.
The other games have cards too, so I mean, it just makes sense to, I mean, not to say we're not those people, or if we are those people, but there's some people that are just like total fanboys. Who are like, oh, I'm gonna get myself a TTCombat branded deck box for my Zone deck.
Yeah.
Which Lewis, if you're doing that too, have your logo and then the faction on it too.
I would definitely buy one if it had the Scourge logo on it. So there's one sale that you've got already. I think you're right on that. That would just be money. The only thing I would say, realistically, is they're 80 card and 100 card deck boxes. And the only reason I'm pointing that out is that you don't, there's nowhere near enough cards in the entire game to fill out that thing. So it is clearly just a deck box for card games that's been redone. It's not a bad thing. I'm just pointing it out. Cool. So, moving on. We've got a couple of pre-orders here for, what's it called? Dystopian Wars. We've got a support box for the Enlightened. We've got a new Victory Battles Fleet set. And I'm going to say Tianlong Battle Fleet set. So the Enlightened are kind of a continuation of the ships that we've already seen. It's an expansion box for your existing force. I do quite like those. The Victory, I think, might be my preferred set, though.
I think the Victory is just straight up it's a Battlefleet set. I mean, that's box and go, because it's got just about everything, and it's got the little planes, mid-size, small, and it's got the big carrier.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm a big fan of that. It looks like it's a similar sort of size to the Ice Maiden was, which would make sense because it's a Battlefleet starter. But the Bianlong have giant dragons. I mean, everything else is nice, but the Tianlong have giant dragons. I think they might win by default because they're giant dragons. The textured bases are interesting too. Nobody else really seems to get textured bases, but the ships. But the flying stuff. And I guess because they're flying, they get it too.
Yeah, because they're flying over the water.
Yeah.
Wayland is being nice and just being like, hey, just paint this, dry brush it, and you have water.
Pretty much. Personally, it's the Victory all the way for me. From this particular set. I still have not invested in this. But if I was to invest in something from this particular wave, it would be Victory.
I do the Tianlong. Because dragons.
Dragons, yeah.
Because dragons.
Socks? You're only allowed to pick from the pre-orders.
Yeah. I actually kind of like the Enlightened ones.
The Enlightened? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, none of them are bad. Yeah. Nice, we all picked different things. If I was going for the entire range, it probably would be the Ice Maiden at this point, though. I almost did buy that at one point. Major Socks. I keep on calling you Captain still. It's kind of hard to break a 4-year history.
Yep.
We've got some updated rules for Legion.
Yeah, so earlier this week, Atomic Mass Games put out a new rules reference guide, an errata, as well as some point changes for Legion. Mixed views across the spectrum, as always. I liked some of the buffs that came with some of the factions that I play, and some of the debuffs or nerfs that the clones got. Some people were saying the clone faction, the Galactic Republic, was a little overpowering. Even though they haven't really won very many tournaments, they just seem like a very cohesive faction, being able to share tokens and stuff like that a little too often. And so that was one of their nerfs that they got. They can't share as many tokens on the board anymore. So we'll see how that plays out. But I'll probably get my first game with all this stuff here in a couple weeks. So we'll see how it goes.
Captain Major Socks, are you trying to tell me that even though evidence in tournaments suggests otherwise, that the community is still determined to prove that something's overpowered, whether it is or not?
Yep.
It's almost like this is a regular thing.
Yep.
No, it's not unusual for people to be screaming about that. It's also not unusual for that sort of feedback to be taken on board.
Yeah.
I don't really have a strong opinion on it. Only that the only real opinion I have on that is that sometimes communities
have a lot of sway.
Get louder on things that they shouldn't. It's a problem that I see in every game, and I'm certainly not picking on the Legion crowd. It's everybody has opinions. We've had opinions of our own, especially early on when it came to the shenanigans in Dropfleet.
Yes,
we were kind of like very overpowered. They've been
even
nerfed to hell, and you could still argue that they're overpowered in some ways.
Well, even in Drop Zone, when Drop Zone came out, everyone was saying that the Shao Tower were a little overpowered because we didn't have to use drop ships. We could use our gates to teleport across the map, and so it's changed a little bit in version 2 now that people don't have dedicated drop ships in the other factions, so they can share their drop ships between their units.
Yeah,
which kind of helped that out across all 5 factions, really. So I mean, Drop Zone saw it too. So
yeah. So yeah, check out the Atomic Mass Games website for that. But aiming for the indie.
Indie. Definition. Independent. Type. Slang word. Jargon.
George jumps up almost having a heart attack. He's like, oh, wait.
Yeah, I was gonna say, oh, yeah, that button.
Well, I was also trying to sit there and not move. Did George freeze? Is he what?
Gone? Is his new setup, his new Mac setup, crashed already? That would be funny.
That would be mildly hilarious. I like the look of these already.
Spellcrow have been around for a while. People that have been listening for a while may remember that I made a comment a few months ago about how I had these on the list to do, but then I had to take them off because they got covered by another company. And I'm like, and that was the month that we discovered Don't Look Back. But I thought it's been long enough, and it was time to actually go back and have a look. So Spellcrow do a number of different things. They're fairly well known for their conversion pieces, first and foremost. I'm looking at the Orc ones here, just as a random choice. Conversion bits are exactly what you think they are. They are just alternative pieces for a game that might be based in the future and is very dark. I'm not kind of picking on any one game in particular. I'm certainly not going to sit here and say that it's for 40k, because it definitely doesn't say that on here. They're just alternate parts that happen to look like they might belong in that universe. I'm a big fan of their Salamander stuff personally. I just think that looks really good. The wolf head stuff is nice as well. It's just a matter of you pick the one that you're interested in. There's some very nice looking guard things. What have you just found,
What did
George?
find?
So assault marines. Right?
Yes.
The stupid backpacks with the vents right here next to their head, and then I always thought those looked just absolutely dumb and stupid.
Can you tell me what you're looking at so that I can show it on the screen, please?
The Space Knights Jump Packs version 1.
Okay, thank you. Keep on talking while I find them.
I think these look so much better because, you know, it's a pod. Who's gonna sit there and make vents right here and then have everything tilt and then point down? Just have the vents pointing straight up. You know, just a straight line. Simpler engineering. Also, think looks a lot cooler. You want me to send you the link there, Bruce?
I'll find it in a minute.
Here, let me do this. So I went to Conversion Bits, Space Knights, and then they are 3/4 of the way down the page.
I found version 2. Space Knights backpack. No. Aha, there we go. Oh, no, I've seen these before. Yep. No, yeah, I do agree. These are much better.
I can't remember what... It was some other company, but they did the same thing, but, you know, wolfed out for, you know, Space Wolf, you know, Assault Marines. And it was just like, if I ever got those, I would not use those packs, and I would spend the extra however many pounds it was and get those packs like that.
Yeah.
To convert with.
That version 2 is quite nice too. Which is kind of it's like a try. There's a big one in the middle and then there's 2 smaller ones to the side. But these actually look like they could lift a Space Marine, which is nice. I mean, you can definitely see what they are, but... No, I do agree. It was on the suggestions on the page that you were looking at.
Oh, you mean like actually clicking on them? Got it. Oh, version 2. There we go. Oh yeah, I've seen those. Yeah, I think even those look better.
Yeah, they look very similar to the backpacks that the Blood Angel Sanguinary Guard use. Obviously, there's no wings on these, but they are very, very similar.
Yes. Well, hold on a second here. I think you could build Marines straight from this from these bits.
Yes, you could. Very much so.
Because I know for the longest time, it was torsos and legs were always the hardest things to find.
Mm. No, you could definitely build your own things from this straight up very, very easily. Under Space Elves, you've got some variety of heads that you can use, as well as a couple of alternate bikes.
Ooh.
That I quite like.
Yeah, those are pretty cool.
I like the unhelmeted heads. That's probably the thing that I find myself coming towards the strongest. But yeah, just lots and lots of really interesting stuff. Oh, what do you found?
The Pleasure Legion. Under conversion bits.
Oh, I didn't even see that.
The Pleasure.
And this is just all exactly what you'd think it would be. Look, crab hands. Interesting that
Sonic backpacks.
Interesting that there's furry cloaks. I've never really associated that much with Slanesh, but anyway.
Did you see the Sonic backpacks?
I did. There's also a guitars set further down.
Yeah. These are pretty cool looking bits. But the first thing that caught my eye was the little skirmish game that they had on their main page with all the dudes with the pumpkin heads.
Yeah. Umbra Tourist, I think it was. I was looking through some of those sets.
Ah, okay. Ooh, they have gnomes. You know, the last time we came across a game that I'd never seen before, I ended up buying lots of stuff. Okay, yep, so this is a skirmish level type thing. The gnomes are very cute. What else do we have? Umbra turrets, we've got halflings, hobgoblins, regular goblins, dwarves. So it's all of your typical fantasy races.
What elves?
So, the first thing I'm going to say that I like about these minis that puts them apart from all the other minis out there, these have more of a cartoony feel to them.
Yeah, and they're very, very simple. They feel very much like early... There's a pumpkin that's a spider. Oh my god. They feel very much like early Games Workshop. Further down the page, there's an Arachniac, which it's a spider pumpkin head.
Yeah, I saw that too.
Oh yeah, look at that.
That is cool. Oh, and there's a regular spider. Yeah, no, this looks really good.
And I don't know if it's the nostalgia of it, but I like this kind of cartoony feel to it. Like, that's the decision they made to, you know, make it look like that.
I kind of wish that there was a picture of whatever these Desniak things were. They're on pre-order, but there's no actual...
Yeah, there is.
It's all blacked out, though.
If you're on the pumpkin spider... And then it went away. No, there's one. Yeah, it should be in the products there. I see a couple here.
There's a pre-order for something called Dasniak, which shows off a blacked box with pumpkin head looking guys, but everything's blacked out. You can't actually see what the minis are. I mean, you can, but you can't.
Go to page 2.
Page
start
2?
Seeing them. Yep. Down at the very bottom, you're starting to see them. They look pretty cool.
Okay, yep. They do look very cool. So, Dyniac with Lantern is the one that's been blacked out. So you can buy everything separate as well as buying them in the boxes. That's actually a nice touch. Oh, I just came across the Targaryens.
Pumpkin. Just having a little army of pumpkins sounds fun.
Agreed. Have you seen the Targaryens?
What page are those on?
They're just after the pumpkin heads.
On page 2 or 3?
Well, I've got my thing showing more. My pages aren't showing up the same. I've got it showing everything.
You got it all the way up to 100.
So, just after the pumpkin heads, you get some more goblins. And then you've got the Targaryens.
Oh, yeah.
Which are barbarian tigers. Yeah. So, Spellcrow. Spellcrow are a company that have been around for quite some time. I'd be very surprised if you haven't heard of them before. But as you can see, this is just a very small part of their website. And as it is, I just found something that I really like, that I hadn't looked at yet. But, Spellcrow, well worth checking out. Hobby Toad?
Yeah, these guys are pretty cool looking.
Cream, glue, prime, paint.
What have you been up to, Socks?
So, showed a couple weeks ago. I was starting to work on my Flashpoint figurines. We'll try and do this again. I posted it on our chat. It's not going to show much. This is the captain. So, black suit with the white helmet and whatnot. I'll try and get some pictures posted so we can put them on as part of links for the, or you can just grab those ones that I posted on our chat. Just put them in there. Finish those up.
Yep.
So probably start working on some Legion stuff over the next couple weeks. So try and finish some of that stuff up.
George is still looking through the Spellcrow website.
Yeah, he is.
What?
Yep.
Your computer monitor is reflected on one of your glass lenses, so we can see that you're still browsing the website.
Don't judge me.
Too late. We started
What
judging
about you,
you the
Bruce? I
moment
know
we
you've
met
been working on some conquest stuff down there.
I have been working on nothing but conquest stuff lately. I've had quite the month. So I've built most of the stuff that I have, and I've been doing test models. I was preparing to film my actual painting guide on Friday, but then we lost power for the day, and I got home to a dead fridge. So that video has been delayed, unfortunately. I do know what I'm doing. I'm doing a pale skinned orc, which is not something that a lot of people have done, because I'm trying to, like, if I'm going to do a painting guide, why do the same thing everybody else has done? And yeah, it's going to be filmed over the next few days, so it's going to be after October that you'll see that at this point. I have finally received my Kings of War Armada stuff that I ordered like a month ago. Australia Post decided that they were going to hold it hostage for like 4 weeks. So that finally arrived with the last of the paints that I needed for my painting. I've also picked up, it's not going to show on camera very well, but I picked up some more AK Interactive paints, which I've been using more and more lately. I'm really enjoying this range. I grabbed their white starter box and their yellow starter box because at some point during November, I intend to release a review of the paint guide of the paint range after having used it for a while. I certainly haven't tested every paint, and I won't because, well, there's like 300 and something paints, and nobody needs that many. But the way I see it, there's 2 particular colours that are absolutely the worst colours to use in every paint range imaginable. So I have specifically gone out of my way to get a selection of those colours, yellow and white, so that I can give a final verdict on what I think the paint range is. Spoiler alert, everything I've got to say about the range so far is very positive. So, but we'll see how I feel after I've been. It's possible that I get the yellow out and then immediately change my mind.
Yeah, yellow's one of those things where...
Well, they can't use toxic colours, that's toxic ingredients. So it limits what they can do on the yellow and the white front. I already have a solution for white, so it's going to be interesting to see how this compares. Although using the white ink that I use for my highlight doesn't really work as well as a final colour. So that's what I've been up to. George has been painting some stuff.
Yes, I finally sat down and actually started painting some stuff. I started doing the cultists from my Cthulhu Death May Die box. Because they're cultists, who cares if I screw them up? I'm probably a little rusty. I also decided to break out the synthetic brushes I picked up, and decided to break out my contrast paints, and just do a whole bunch of stuff that I am not comfortable with.
Sometimes the best thing that you can do.
Right, so I'm pretty happy with how they're turning out. I mean, this is not a centerpiece, paint job. I'm slapping some color on to make it look like it's not a gray plastic. Well, they were red plastic to start with, but you know what I mean. Just trying to throw some color on to add some panache to the game. My goal is here, now I'm starting to get stuff situated and whatnot, is, go through and try to do a little bit of painting every night, and get it uploaded, and work at getting better again.
So you can get to those dots, right?
No. I'm not doing this to get better at dots.
Maybe you should
Dots
be.
are terrible.
Maybe if you was to have that as your end goal, then it would help you further yourself, because then you've got a goal to work towards.
No. Absolutely not.
Where's your dedication?
Not in dots.
I think you lost it the first time he did the dots.
Yes.
Well, it's not our fault that he chose to strip everything. That was his own stupid fault.
I have to agree with Bruce. That was George's own fault.
Yeah, but I came up with a different, like paint scheme to use.
Still,
It still requires dots.
it's still not our fault. You're the stupid bastard that decided to strip things. Now you have to fix it. 2 years later.
3 years at this point, I think.
Oh God, it's even worse.
Yeah.
Oh dear. So October's been a good month for us.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Game talk?
Talk nerdy to me.
Alright. So,
Back to fleet.
back to Fleet this week. Or this fortnight, I should say. Mainly because we talked about Zone last time. Well, actually, we didn't talk about anything last time.
We didn't talk about anything last time because it was Mel last time.
We talked about Mel last time.
We
That's
did.
true.
All right. So, we are going to be discussing the medium cruisers for the Scourge. I'm going to start with the Sphinx. And regular viewers of the channel may notice that they've actually redone the website. And so far, I'd have to say it looks very pretty. Nice, bright, colourful. Okay, so the Sphinx is 115 points. You have a 6-inch scan, an 8-inch signature. You've got 10-inch thrust, 10 hull, armour is 4+. You've got 6 point defense. You've got groups of 1 to 2, and it's a medium tonnage, and it's not special. You've got Oculus beams, which... Now, here's something. The weapons all have thrust, even though weapons don't thrust. Oh, that'll be because of missiles. Never mind, I'm answering my own question. Okay, Oculus beams is a 3+. You've got 1 attack, but it does 2 damage. It's only on the front arc, and it has Scald. For those that are not familiar, Scald, basically, if you're within... So if they are within your scan range, then they take a penalty on their armor. Oculus beams array. You've got 1 on the left and 1 on the front, and 1 on the left and 1 on the right. So it's front, side. It is a 3+. It's got 2 attacks, 2 damage, and that also has Scald. Then you have your Plasma Storm, which is a 3+. D6 plus 2 attacks, 1 damage, and it's front, side, and rear. That is Scald and close action. So the Sphinx has been around for a while. It's a fairly standard looking ship.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, go back into the next one.
So the Wyvern's next. It's 105 points. 6-inch scan, 8-inch signature, 10-inch thrust, 10 hull, 4+ armor with a 6-point defense, a grouping of 1 to 2, and tonnage of medium as well. No specials on this one. It just has 1 Oculus beam with a 3+ lock, 1 attack, 2 damage in front arc with Scald as well, and then the Plasma Tempest, which is pretty nasty because even though it's a 3+ lock, it's 2d6 plus 4. So at minimum, you're rolling 6. Maximum, you're rolling what? 16 at max.
Yeah.
So 1 damage front side on the arc. So no rear arc on this one. and it's scalded in close action as well. So pretty nasty if you get a couple of these up close with those Plasma Tempests.
Yeah. This is definitely something that you'd want him to be take two of as well.
Mm-hmm.
George, do you want to have a look at the
Ifrit? Yes, the Ifrit. I apologize. My throat is killing me. I injured my Adam's apple drinking water, so. It's got a scan of 6, sig of 8, thrust 10, hull 10, armor 4 up, point defense 6, grouping of 1 to 2 tonnage of medium, nothing special about it. It does have Oculus Beams, which are 3 up block, 1 attack, 2 damage, front arc with Scald. I'm just going to stop saying Scald because everything the Scourge have, Scalds.
Almost.
Well, on the medium cruisers anyways. Then you have Furnace Cannons. This is the same weapon. It has 2 firing profiles, though. One is a 4 up block, 4 attacks, 1 damage, front and arrow. Burn through 8. The other one, Furnace Cannon, is a 2 up, 1 shot. Burn through 4, but with flash. So, and then you have a Plasma Storm, which is 3+, D6 plus 2, front side rear, Scald, close action. Pretty decent little ship, I think.
Yeah.
It's 110 points.
I'm a big fan of the Infrit.
Yeah,
I will move on. Sorry, yep.
Go ahead. I'm doing this.
I was
green.
Say, I'm a big fan of the Infrit. I definitely have a place for it. I'm going to go into the Hydra, unless there's something else you wanted to say about the Infrit.
No.
In regards to like the scans and stuff, you're going to start noticing very quickly that these are all very, very similar. But this is 140 points, 6 scan, 8 sig, thrust of 10, 10 hull, armor 4+, point defense 6, grouping of 1, medium tonnage, and this has launch. So this has Oculus Beams. It's the same beams as all of the other ones. 3+ lock, 1 attack, 2 damage, front, and it has Scald. Plasma Storm is 3+, 2, 6, sorry, a D6 plus 2, 1 damage front, side, and rear, Scald, and close action. The big thing this have is it's got 5 bombers and fighters. So that's where your points are coming on this one. And we should always have places for fighters and bombers in our factions. Well, most of us.
EHR especially. The last cruiser we're going to go over is the Chimera. It's 105 points. This is its troop ship line for the Scourge. Normal stats for the, like everything else: 6-inch scan, 8-inch sig, 10-inch thrust, 10 hull, 4+ armor, 6 point defense, a grouping of 1, medium tonnage, and launch as well. Same Oculus Beams as the others: 3+ lock, 1 attack, 2 damage front side, though on this one for Scald and a hull side Scald. And then Plasma Storm is 3 up, lock, D6 plus 2, 1 damage, front side rear, Scald, close action as well. And then it has a bulk lander launch of 2, so can drop 6 troops on the ground at a time, or one of your defense batteries. So
yeah, true. I keep forgetting that the defense batteries exist.
Yeah, a lot of people don't play with that because they forget about it because they think getting the troops down there is more important. But it can actually make a difference. Sometimes.
Yeah, I'd completely forgotten about him, actually. The Scourge there's nothing amongst this that I don't like, which doesn't make this decision easy. Oh, hey, look. It's the one that I say all the time. I'm a big fan of the Sphinx and the Infrit. I pretty much always have room in my fleet for a Chimera. Because I do like bulklanders. I know people either tend to like them or hate them, but I do like them. I do think that there's a place in the game for them. Depends
I'm
on
envious
what you're doing.
I know you are.
You have no reason to be envious. You have an automatic win. Well, your faction exists, therefore you've got an automatic win.
When you can take one pile from this cluster and zip it across the board to the other cluster in pretty much the entire turn.
Did they? I thought they nixed that. I thought it was, you know, you can only move so many through the gate.
Right. I think you're right. I think you're right now. Forgot that. I'm just thinking back when, because Levi would do that all the time in our games when I played against Levi. I hated that.
Or you know, the one ship that, you know, oh hey, look, I'm gonna blow up your ship and I'm gonna have like a 99% chance of success because I roll 2s that ignore everything.
Yeah,
I would almost say the Wyvern is a must take.
What was that? Sorry.
I'd almost say the Wyvern is a must take just because of the close action. Being able to roll between 6 and 16 dice. Yeah, it's close action, but still, that's a lot of shots coming through.
Take 2 of these. I can't disagree with you. Realistically, it's only 105 points too. It's like 210 points, and you got all of those shots. All you got to do is get them in the front line, and you're taking out anything you want. Just
go silent running for a little while, and just you don't have to go weapons free with this thing because you've got one weapon and the close action, so you don't have to go weapons free with this guy at all.
And running silent would be the way to get them up there too. You're right.
I'm gonna have to go with the Wyvern as well.
Mm-hmm.
Just because with the limited scan that the Scourge have, and I would say that is their Achilles heel.
Yes, I would agree.
When you compare it to the average of everything UCM, the slightly better PHR, and then the flat out ridiculous of the Shaltari, their scan sucks. So you're gonna have to get close. If you're gonna get that close, get in there and do some close action. And something like this where 2d6 plus 4 hitting on 3s, that's taking 1 off their armor.
Yeah.
And what it is the cheapest of the ships, right? For the mediums, right?
One of them. I think there's another one that's 105 points.
Yeah, the troop ship's 105 points.
Yeah.
So, not taking the carrier or the troop ship into account on any of this, because those are 2 completely different ships that fill a completely different role in orbit.
That's fair.
I'd say the Wyvern is more important than the Sphinx and the Ifrit. After that, I would say the Ifrit.
If we're taking out the fleet and the troop ship, then I'd have to agree with you.
Especially when you think about it, if you got the minimum out of a grouping of 2, which would be 12 dice on the attack, if you're taking the minimum, most ships don't have a point defense of higher than 6, other than the battleships and the dreadnoughts.
And Shaltari.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, no, you're right. It's the Wyvern. It's the Wyvern all the way.
And then if you get the max, you're looking at 32 dice. If you were to get the lucky chance of getting 2d6s on both of them. You might as well just... And at that many dice, Bruce, you're bound to hit something.
So where are we looking at 7? So minimum
I will
of
say
20,
this.
Average of 22 shots.
Average of what?
Average of 22 shots on a grouping of 2. Because, you know, you figure 7.
Oh, that's nice. I will say this, when it comes to their medium cruisers, the Scourge have no bad options.
Mm-hmm.
No, not really.
Everything there fulfills a role.
Yeah.
And if you have a grouping of 2 and then you have another grouping of 2, don't they technically become a single group?
Only if they're within the same group.
If they're in the same battle group, they kind of merge into the same battle group or grouping. So you could have potentially 4, if I'm remembering the rules, unless that changed with the new rules.
No, I think you'd be... But they'd have to be within the same group. I don't know. I'd almost be... I think I'd prefer to have two separate groups, honestly.
No, I would agree too. Being able to activate two separate groups would probably be better than a grouping of 4, if that's the way the rules were stated. I'm trying to remember. It's been so long since I played. And
We have been kind of locked out for a while.
Yeah.
So, there we are. That's game talk. Moving back up. Whenever you're ready. I'm back.
And this is back as well.
All right. We didn't lose anything, thankfully.
Good.
Upcoming events?
That's where I was going.
Upcoming events. We'll have to move stuff again. There we go. This one.
At the apex of forthcoming things.
All right. So, upcoming events. I did a little bit of digging and found a few new ones this time. We have a Conquest Games convention coming up in April next year, from the 15th till the 17th. This is in Australia, Melbourne specifically. All of the details are kind of up in the air at this stage. It's actually in Coburg North, which is not very far away from me. I don't know if I'm going yet. I don't know. Basically, well, we'll have to see what happens. It's board games, it's tabletop games. There's people running gaming events, Dungeons and Dragons, Pathfinder, Call of Cthulhu. It's very much a come and participate type idea. It's got the website itself, which is conquest.asn. That's A for Apple, S for Sam, N for Nelly, .au. Has lots of examples of pictures and games that's been run in the past. It's very much board games and tabletop games, and it's kind of, like I said, it's a participation type event, which is good to see, and hopefully everything continues going in the right direction so it can happen. In Toowoomba, which is also in Australia, we have the Mountain Stands 1. It's the Toowoomba Conquest Tournament. It's happening at a store called Battle Station on the 27th of November. It's a 1,200 point tournament. You arrive at 10 o'clock in the morning for a 10:30 start. It's $20 for the day, which includes your lunch, which is not bad, actually. And
$20 and lunch.
Yeah, that's not bad.
yeah. We also have Stubborn Earth, which is a Bushido event. This is happening in, I'm going to say Farahàn, or it could be Fairhahn. It's at the Fairhahn Worth West Community Association. This is in the UK. It's on the 14th of November. It's a 100 rice tournament, which shouldn't surprise anybody that plays Bushido. It's an 8-person event, I suspect because of social distancing. And you're looking at £10 to get in. All of these events can be found on Facebook if you go searching in the regular groups for them. The Bushido event is hosted in the Bushido The Game group. Both of the other ones I found through the Conquest groups. And the Conquest Games Convention you can find by searching for that on Facebook. Or go to the website that I said earlier.
Can I also throw something out real quick, too, that we haven't mentioned and I was wanting to mention?
Sure.
And this is not related to anything. Good friend of the shows as well, Alan Bullard.
Yeah.
He has his own storefront now.
Ah, yes.
With tables and stuff. So, we should chat with him some on that. Ask him about the trials and tribulations and all that stuff. And plus, he has a storefront now.
Yeah, that's pretty awesome.
Yeah, it is. A lot of that got delayed because of COVID, obviously, but he is actually open now and running, which is good to see. Thank you to those that support us. We do very much appreciate it. Anybody that does support us through Patreon gets early access to at least 80% of the videos that we host. You get early access to the video edition of this podcast on the day that the audio is uploaded, instead of having to wait until the following weekend. $2 a month, it's all that we ask. If you can help support us, help us get to a point where this is paying for itself and not coming out of our pockets, we would very much appreciate any support that you have. If you have enjoyed the Conquest content this month, you can use the code GETTINGTABLED at the Parabellum website to get 10% off your order. We get a small commission from that to help support us as well. Again, if you're wanting to start into the game, or if you're wanting to expand your existing force, maybe by buying one of those Apex Predators, I know I want one of those, then please do so. You can find us on Facebook at facebook.com/gettingtabled. You can find us on YouTube by searching Getting Tabled. On Twitter and Instagram, we are at Getting Tabled. You can email us, gettingtabled@gmail.com. And otherwise, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
For listening to Getting Tabled. Music used in this podcast was created by Eric Matyas at soundimage.org.